you can't actually rest. You probably never said that out loud, but you know it's true. You can lie down, but your mind keeps running. You can take a day off and spend the whole day vaguely uneasy, like you've forgotten something important. An empty afternoon doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a low humming dread. So you feel it. You find a task, a problem, a person to help, anything that lets you stay useful. Other people seem to switch off at the end of the day. You don't have a switch. Or if you do, you've never let yourself reach it. And from the outside, this looks like a virtue. You are the productive one, the reliable one, the person who always has energy for everyone else, the one who gets things done, the one who never seems to stop. People admire it. They call it drive, discipline, a strong work ethic. They might even be a little jealous of how much you accomplish. But here's what they don't see. You're not running because you're full of energy. You're running because stopping is the thing you're most afraid of. The busyness isn't strength. It's a way of never having to find out what happens when you stand still. Let me show you what's really happening underneath. Picture yourself as a small lamp, a warm, glowing little light that the people around you gather near. They read by you. They warm their hands at you. They rely on the fact that you're always on. And you love being that for them. You really do. But somewhere inside your chest, there's a filament running hot, and a row of small gauges creeping into the red. You've been lit for so long, for so many people, that you've forgotten you are ever allowed to go dim. And there's no off switch you let yourself touch. Because here's what happens when the stillness finally comes. When the room goes quiet and there's nothing left to do, your light doesn't soften into rest. It flickers with panic. Something in you starts to scramble. Find a task, answer a message, fix something, anything. The quiet feels like a threat, not a relief. And you've never stopped to ask why, doing nothing, the thing everyone else seems to crave, fills you specifically with dread. Why rest for you feels less like peace and more like danger. And while you're burning yourself down to keep everyone warm, notice something. The people gathered around your light, they warm themselves by you, and they trust that you'll always be on. And almost none of them ever check whether you're running too hot. Why would they? You never dim. You never falter. You've trained everyone in your life to assume you are fine, because you've never once let them see the gauges in the red. You are the most depended on person in the room, and the one no one thinks to worry about. So you run on fumes, and you call it being reliable. You push through the exhaustion because stopping isn't an option. There are people counting on your light, and every time you manage to keep going when you had nothing left, it confirms the quiet rule you live by, that your job is to stay on. That tired isn't a reason to rest. It's just a feeling to override. You've gotten so good at overriding it that you barely feel it anymore. Until it comes out sideways, as numbness, as resentment, as a bone-deep weariness no weekend can touch. And here's the contradiction at the center of it. You are exhausted, and you long to rest. Truly long for it, the way you'd long for water in a desert. And yet, the moment rest is available, you refuse it. You'll do anything but stop. You crave the stillness, and you're terrified of it in the same breath. It's not that you don't want to power down. It's that some part of you is convinced that powering down is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. So let's name the fear, the real one, underneath all that productivity. You don't keep yourself running because you love working. You keep yourself running because you're afraid of what you are when you stop. If you're not being useful, not producing, not helping, not giving off light, then you don't know if there's any reason for you to be here at all. Your busyness was never about the tasks. It was about staying lit so that no one would ever have a reason to switch you off. Because somewhere you learned that your light was the reason you were kept. Love came in exchange for being good, helpful, impressive. The warmth arrived when you achieved and left when you stopped. So a small, frightened part of you decided, I am loved for what I give off, not for being here. And a lamp that's loved only for its light can never, ever afford to go dark. And here's the image that's been driving you your whole life, even if you've never seen it clearly. A lamp, dimmed, set on a shelf in a dark room, unplugged, forgotten. The thing that scares you isn't being tired. It's the belief that the moment your light goes out, you'll be set aside, quietly shelved, replaced by someone brighter, left in a dark that no one ever comes back to. So you stay on, through the exhaustion, through the red line gauges, through the years. You keep your light burning, so you're never the lamp no one returns for. But look closely at that fear, because it's running on old information. The child who learned that warmth had to be earned, that being switched off meant being forgotten. That child wasn't making it up. That was real, in that house, at that time. But you've been protecting yourself from a danger that isn't in the room anymore. The people who actually love you now, they didn't gather for your output. And some of them have been quietly waiting for years for you to finally let your light rest so they could show you they'd stay. Because the people who truly love you don't love you for your light. That's the thing the frightened part of you has never been able to believe. They don't love the productivity, the reliability, the endless usefulness. Those are just what you keep showing them because you're afraid the real thing underneath isn't enough. But they're not warming their hands at you and walking away. They want to sit with you in the quiet, with your light low. They've been wanting that for longer than you know. To be near you when you have nothing to give, and to stay anyway. So why is it so hard to just dim the light, even for an evening? Because dimming it means finding out. It means going quiet in front of the people you love and discovering whether they stay or whether the frightened part of you was right all along. That's the most exposed a person like you can ever be. Still, useless, producing nothing, and simply hoping to be wanted anyway. As long as you're glowing, you never have to risk that answer. So you stay on, and you never let anyone prove the fear wrong. I'm not going to tell you to power all the way down tonight. You can't undo a lifetime of staying lit in a single evening, and you shouldn't have to. But you can try one small, terrifying thing. The next time the quiet comes, and the panic rises, and your hand goes reaching for a task, pause. Let your light go a little lower. Sit with one person who loves you and do nothing. Produce nothing. Offer nothing. And let them stay anyway. Just once, let yourself be near someone with your gauges out of the red, and find out what you've been too afraid to test, that you are wanted even when you're resting. Because maybe the bravest thing you'll ever do isn't doing more. You're already so good at doing. Maybe the bravest thing is to let your light go soft, to take up space while producing nothing, and to trust that you'll still be here and still be loved when it comes back up. A lamp doesn't stop being a lamp when it rests, and you don't stop being worth keeping when you finally, gently power down. So if you've spent your whole life afraid to stop, afraid that the moment your light goes out, you'll be shelved and forgotten. I want you to hear this. You're allowed to rest now. You're allowed to be dim and quiet and still completely worth keeping. The light was never the reason they stayed. You were.